So well, I'm Glyn Ford. I was a member of the European Parliament for 25 years, representing the British Labour Party, and I specialised on trade and foreign affairs, particularly in Northeast Asia. And so I ended up going to North Korea for the first time in 1997, when they came to see me to talk about trying to get European food aid. And since then I've actually been there on more than, well, almost 50 occasions. And so I know the country fairly well, certainly for a European. And I wrote a book on it about 10 years ago, and I've got another one coming out in September. I mean, firstly, let me say it's clear that the situation, the crisis on the peninsula is going to be solved by fundamentally two different pairs of countries. With the issue of denuclearization, it's going to be between Washington and Pyongyang, fundamentally. In terms of North-South relations, it's Seoul and Pyongyang. So those are the key players. You've also got, in the region, you've got China, you've got Russia, you've got Japan. But it seems to me that whatever the kind of solution is going to be, it's probably one that needs some support. It will need support from all over the world. If we look at the agreed framework, the European Union was part of the Cato project. And it seems to me that this solution will require what I call guarantors and donors. The deal with Iran obviously is in trouble at the moment because of President Trump's decision to abrogate the deal. But what's interesting is that it still exists because it had support from a series of other countries, from the UN Security Council, from the United Kingdom, France, Germany, the European Union, Russia, China. So it seems to me that any deal we get now in terms of security could probably do with the same kind of support, because I don't think really a letter from President Trump, or for that matter any other president, is enough. So I think you need a framework, and I see the European Union as being part of that framework. Secondly, we also need donors, because I think it's very clear that any settlement is likely to have some equivalent of the Cato project attached to it. Now, the bulk of that money will be paid by South Korea, but last time round, Japan, the European Union made a contribution. So I see that financial contribution as well. And lastly, in a sense, there may be a political role to play, because certainly North Korea has actually said that they're willing to have a human rights dialogue with the European Union again. They offered that sort of in 2014. So it may be that one of the openings that at the moment is rather missing is to get that human rights dialogue going, and the European Union might be able to do that. So it might have its own small contribution to play. The heavy lifting is going to be done by Seoul and Washington, but if we can help a little, we will be delighted to do so. Well, as I said, I mean, in a sense, I'm going to repeat slightly what I've said before. I mean, it seems to me that if you're going to have security guarantees, they need to be robust, they need to be resilient, they need to be supported. And hopefully as many of those countries as possible will be willing to give their names to that kind of support, to actually make the case and to give. I mean, if North Korea is going to give up its nuclear weapons, it needs to have a degree of confidence. If it's got a nuclear deterrent, it can be 100% guaranteed it doesn't have a problem. I mean, in the sense of if you want attempts at regime change either overtly or covertly, at least that was its view. If it's going to give that up, it needs a replacement that's got some guarantees. And as I said, I think those need to be multinational. We always talk about CVID, complete, verifiable, irreversible disarmament. I think Pyongyang wants complete, verifiable, irreversible security guarantees, and that will be the mirror image of what we're looking for in terms of the nuclear deterrent. Well, I mean, the China-US relationship is obviously a multi-dimensional one. I mean, at the moment, the two are working together rather well, as far as I can see, on the Korean Peninsula. Actually, working rather badly together on trade issues. If it wasn't for China, the European Union would feel hard done by on trade issues, but as it is, China is suffering more. And of course, there are very different visions. Yes, the United States, in a sense, is challenging China in the region with its new sort of Indo-Pacific sort of approach. And China's, if you want, well, both with its Belt and Road Initiative and the rest. But I mean, these are the natural things. These two major powers are trying to, if you want, project their power and their influence, and they're both doing it in slightly different ways. Well, I mean, I think the Jeju Forum, as far as I'm aware, has played an important role in actually building a climate and an atmosphere towards peace. I mean, Jeju's got its own terrible history, so I mean, I understand where it's coming from, but it's exactly kind of civil society in a sense that it has to promote this, has to push the politicians and everybody else into making the extra effort, because it's not going to be easy. At the moment, we're all rather positive. I remain positive. That doesn't mean to say there won't be difficult sections in the road ahead, as we saw with if you want, the brief spat between John Bolton and Kim Gai-kwan, which almost derailed the summit. So there are going to be tough times ahead, and we need people like the Jeju Forum to make sure we get over that and through that, to the ultimate end that we want to see. Well, I'm delighted to be here. It's only my second time ever on Jeju, so yeah, please invite me back again. Don't broadcast that.